Hello and welcome to Take Refuge 3D. Welcome back, and if you're new here then just welcome. Now, over the last week or so I've spent a couple of hours each night quickly concepting these retro future designs. I haven't had a lot of time to do much modelling, but where I've had some opportunities I took them. So really I want to talk about how plasticity's absolutely changed the way that I do this kind of stuff. So some of these shapes and stuff, back when I was in poly modelling, I wouldn't have even sort of like started to explore them if I only had half an hour or an hour to make a model. I would have done something else, but because plasticity has allowed me all this extra flexibility that I maybe wasn't skilled enough or whatever in poly modeling to be able to do these things quickly, I can now do them in plasticity and then render them out in Blender, which is just amazing. Now in this video we're going to make a really quick concept and we're going to go through some of the do's and don'ts and quickly iterate on it, and we'll get into that now. And just quickly, I am a Plasticity affiliate, so if you've been thinking about buying an indie license or a studio license, you can use my code REFUGE10 to get a 10% discount at checkout. Merry Christmas. So I've already been collecting reference and developing my style, as you saw from those pictures. So for this one, what I did is I just got a picture of a whiskey tumbler that had a similar kind of golden base. I took the render I did of this model here and I plugged it into DALL-E, the OpenAI image generator, and with a little bit of negotiating we came up with this image here. So let's start a new scene, and I'm just going to drag a PNG of this and I'm going to scale it up, and we're going to use this as a reference. Whatever you think about using AI to generate concept art, I don't feel too bad about this one because I used a photo from an ad that I found online plus some art that I already made myself using DALL-E to create something that sort of came out of my brain originally anyway. So what we're going to do, we're going to just quickly change the material on this. We're going to make the depth front only, and we're just going to change the opacity down so we can see what's going on, and then we're just going to lock it so that we're unable to select it. And we're just going to bring a line across from the base. This is really simple stuff. Okay, and then we're going to use a control point curve. If you can't see it, hold down your left mouse and we can go to that one. Actually, let's quickly put on screencast keys. Alright, should have my keys showing up on the screen now. We're going to get this control point curve and we're just going to pull this out like this, and we're going to slowly get the shape, try and get that quite nice with using as few points as possible. Okay, and now what we can do is we can press number 2 and we can just join these two together by pressing J on the keyboard. And if we revolve this now, it should be mostly good. I think that looks okay, but I think I just want to make it a little bit more emphasized by pulling these out a little bit more, maybe a little bit down and out. And this one I want to bring it in a little bit. This actually can go in a little bit. Okay, and we can give a slight bevel to this one by pressing B, a little bit of a fillet. Okay, and let's just bring this one in. I know it's not identical to what they've got, but I want mine to have a little bit more form. Okay, so now we're going to hit the revolve down here. Okay, we can just click on the origin there of that and pull down. Okay, we can now duplicate it, hide the duplicate. Okay, hide our curve, and then we can just take this across like this. Okay, to about there. And we can constrain it to the x-axis. Alright, and then we take our control point curve again, and we might need to press Alt-Z to go into X-ray mode so we can lock on to there, and we can just bring this down maybe a little bit further out like that, and we've got that locked into the center there. I do want to just join these two together first, and then I'll edit my control points a little bit. Maybe press 2. That looks fine to me. We can mirror this one across, just the curve only, join it together, and then we can just cut that out and press X to delete the top half. Okay, so now we've got this shape here, and really at this point we can just turn off our visibility of our reference altogether. We can press Alt H to unhide everything. Actually, let's just delete the reference. Okay, pressing number 4 to go into object mode. We can delete our curves as well, just clean up as we go along. We want to thicken the base going outwardly. Okay, and I think I want this to be reasonably fat, and then we can thicken the glass itself going inwardly. I don't want this to be quite as fat. So then we can select this and actually select both of these and type in FRED for delete redundant topology, and then we get rid of that line there. Now for the first don't of making quick references is do not micro fillet. Okay, so we don't want to fillet all of these edges and get these nice little highlights in Plasticity, because we can do that within shaders within our render engine. So both Blender and Marmoset Toolbag have a way that you can do micro bevels or micro fillets within shaders. You'll spend a lot of time wasting your time and getting extremely high poly meshes. If you're just doing concepts, you don't need to do that here. We're not doing like hardcore surfacing or anything like that. We're not making a car, we're making a concept. So the next step, let's get some shape going on this. Okay, so I'm just going to bring a line across here. Okay, and I'm going to cut this object here. And then let's get rid of our line. Okay, and then I'm just going to select those two edges and I'm going to bevel them out like that. Okay, maybe even slighter, because I just want that to be the faintest hint of a bit of a detail there. Okay, and if we saw our reference before, you'll notice that it's got all of these bits along the bottom. So what we might do is we might actually scale this in S, Shift Z, so we're just, and we've got the inside bit there as well, so pull the glass in as well. Okay, I think that looks quite nice. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in a center rectangle. Okay, and we can just drag that up there like that. Okay, and pull it out on the Y axis. Okay, so it's in front, and then we can just scale this to how we would like it, pressing 1 to go into point mode, and we can just give it a nice little fillet, and we want the top to be a little bit wider, pull the bottom down, and we want the bottom to be a little bit narrower, hopefully, and then we can press 2 on your keyboard to go into edge mode, and then we can press I and try and imprint that on there. Click hide occlusion so it doesn't go through the back. It'll end up on the back somewhere. Yeah, you can see it goes double. You can see there's an extra one there. If we click hide occlusion, that second one will go away. Okay, and then we might need to edit this, but I'm just going to press patch, which I've got set to Alt F. You might have it set to something else, and then we're just going to thicken that patch. Let's just rotate it and see what it looks like. Okay, let's see if we can. I think it's a little bit short, so let's go back a few steps, and we just want this to be a little bit taller at this end and a little bit lower at that end. Okay, so we can press 2 I, and that seems to be perfectly matched there. Okay, but we forgot to hide the occlusion, so we'll do that again and hide the occlusion. Alt F in my case, or you can just go and find the patch command and see what you've got it set to. I think it's set to something else by default. And let's pull this out a little bit. Okay, and then we'll try and pull this out, and we'll just try and match it to that edge, which we've been able to do there quite nicely. Let us rotate this around, pressing 4 to be able to select objects, go to radial array, and bring that around like that. Okay, and once again, it might look a little bit janky, and you might be tempted to try and bevel this now, but we really don't want to, right? We really don't want to, because we'll do that in our render engine. Okay, so we've got this glass pretty much done. One detail that I would do is I would give this a full round fillet so that the glass has a really nice sheen to it. In my original one, I put a little design, a little motif on here, and you can see that Dali has also decided that it wanted to add some kind of motif to the bottom. So let's try and do that really quickly. So I'm just in Photoshop here, and you can use anything you like really, and I've just got symmetry turned on to mandala with a 3-sided mandala, and we're just going to really quickly, I don't know, make a motif. Okay, so now that that's done, I can open up Inkscape and we can just drag and drop our motif, import file. I've saved it as a PNG. Once we've got that all nicely scaled up, then we can take it in here, trace the bitmap, hit apply. Now we've got 2 things here. We've got to figure out which one is this is our original. Okay, so we can delete that, and then we can take our bitmap over here and we can just export that as an SVG. There you go, SVG there. Back in Plasticity, we can just directly drag that SVG into our scene, and it'll come in at a funny angle. So we just want to rotate that X90 or Y90, sorry, and it will be really massive and over there. And then we want to also rotate it on the Z by 90 and rotate Y90 in this case, sorry. Okay, and then we got our motif there. We can just drag in, control, click it into the center there, scale it down, right? And we just put that motif right there. All right, this is going to fit in with the other one. And what I want to do now, take these outer bits here, okay? And we could either drag that onto there and press W and click this and see what happens, okay? And if we just hide that, let's just see if that looks okay. We'll just hide our curves wherever they are. Okay, I think that looks perfectly fine, and we don't actually need to do any bevels or anything like that. That's going to be great. We could have tackled that in a slightly different way as well, but I think for now that is perfectly fine. So we've got this kind of sci-fi whiskey tumbler. What we might do right now is just go into object mode, or pressing 4, and then let's just group these, Control G, okay, and we'll call this bottom trim. We don't want to join it because we might want to use a different material. Okay, glass base. Okay, so going over into Blender, we can connect our Plasticity Blender bridge and just refresh our scene, and that is going through the geometry. So what we'll do is we'll go back, and in Plasticity we'll GG everything and hold down Control, and we'll GV to select the pivot as the base, and then G again, hold down Control, and we'll set it to the origin point. Okay, right click to accept. We can refresh that, and it's nice there up on our scene. Now I've already set up my camera and my scene and everything, so if we go into rendered mode, we're going to see that this is nicely set up. Now, I did do a video on how to set all of these things up. It was a collaboration with Matt from Learn Everything About Design, where he made a brick from Super Mario Brothers, and then I did all of the texturing. So if you want to go into like finer detail and go deep dive on how to set up textures and scenes and everything like that, go and watch his video and watch my video as well. Okay, so let's set up some textures on this. We're going to go into shading mode. I'm just going to get a nice angle for this camera. I think something like that where we can actually see the lip. And we click on our camera. We can change, you know, the focal length of our camera and stuff like that. I think a nice, I don't know, 70 or 50. I think 50 is quite nice. Okay, so what we can do first is let's set up a glass material. Okay, so we'll just go new. Okay, and we'll make the base color like this kind of gray. Okay, we'll bring the roughness down, and we'll go over into our shading editor, and we'll just go and bring the transmission of this right up to 1, ensuring that this is turned on. Okay, and we might not be able to see that that is actually transparent because it's so dark, but if we turn this up like that, we can see that the background is transparent. Now, what we might do is we might just add a light into our scene. Okay, at the back of this, like so, maybe something like that. Okay, so that when we actually hit this and we lower our color of this down and give it this like sort of gray hue, we can actually see that light, and if we choose our light we can actually just change the color of that as well and give it a warmer hue, and maybe just rotate it a bit, something like that. I think that looks quite nice, and we can start to see the transparency being showed off. We can play around with that a bit more in a moment, but let's get this nice metal texture. So we'll hit new on a texture, okay, and we'll get rid of this principled, and we're going to use the new metallic BSDF, right? And we'll plug that directly into there. Okay, and we actually want this to be a nice bronze color, so I'm just going to sample from off screen, and we can then play around with it a little bit, and then we can take the roughness down. As we've still got these harsh edges, and that's really easily fixed. So if we get a bevel node, okay, now Blender defaults are always a little bit janky, so this might be a little bit off at first, so we want that radius to come right down. We'll try 2 extra zeros. We're getting a nice, okay, maybe that's too much, we'll try 1 extra zero, and I think that's okay, but let's just call that, let's make it a little bit smaller, we'll call it 0.025, or halve it. Okay, and you can see that it's now hitting our motif as well, so that's really great. And then what we can do is we can select all of these other base pieces. Let's try and select all of those, deselect the main thing, and we can then select this, and we can Control L and go link materials. Okay, so now our base pieces also have this bevel on them, okay, but we can take it further than this. So let's get a nice little pattern on there. Now I'm going to use another one of the new Blender features, and we're going to use a Gabor texture. Okay, we plug that into there, we see what's going on. That doesn't look that great, so let's control T that, get rid of our image texture. This is with Node Wrangler. Put our vector in there, and we'll make it object coordinates, okay, and we'll make the texture style 3D, and as we bring our scale up we can see what's going on, and we can just play around with that, and then you can use this little globe here to change the direction of it, so that might be easier to see if we reduce the scale. But I want to get a nice kind of sci-fi shape on here, okay, and we can probably better visualize it with a color ramp, okay, and we'll just bring these values crunching in like that. So a lower frequency you get these more wavy lines, and a higher frequency, and so you could even, like with this texture, you get a nice weft kind of thing out of it as well. We'll just play around until we get something that we like. Alright, I think I'm quite liking that. Alright, so let's just plug that back into there, and let's plug this into our roughness, alright, and see how that looks. Alright, I do like that, but we want to reduce some of this black down, and we want to make some of this white darker, just so it's, and then we can really crank that up like that, and we're getting a really nice effect here. And then we could also, with our glass, maybe add some fingerprints. So you can find a fingerprints texture online. We're just going to add an image texture. Okay, what we're going to do is we're just going to select our glass, we're going to do a smart UV unwrap wherever it's gone, there we go, unwrap it, find our image texture, right, there we go, plug this directly into our roughness, and then we can add a mapping node into this, and we can just change the scale by like to 2, and then we just get a nice color ramp in there, get that contrast right up like that, but we don't want that, so we want to bring this, and it's just going to be a very faint hint when we render it, and then we just want to add some more lights, right? So we can, I'm using a plugin here called what's it called, Light Wrangler. Okay, and it works really well. Okay, and you can use all these controls. So I'm just now going to link this light only to the base of the glass. Okay, we can go into layout mode. Alright, I'm going to orbit that around now. We probably want to bring the roughness of this metal to be a little bit more shiny. Okay, that looks cool. Alright, let's keep adding lights. Add a light, and we'll just do another rim light, and we can change the color of that one to a cool color. Okay, and then just a main key light. We can make the scale of this much bigger, and we can increase the power of it as well, and this is going to affect all of our objects, and that's nicely hitting the front. And that's about it. So we can, once we're happy with what we've got, right, we can hit render. And now that we've finished that, we've got our composite image here, okay, which we'll go into in a moment. But you can see we've got all these fingerprints, and we've got all this detail, all these bevels here that weren't in the original Plasticity image. So if we just go and have a look, I've set up a composite with some crypto matte masks. Like I said before, if you want to learn more about that, go and watch the Mario brick tutorial where I go and deep dive on how to set up sort of a shader like that. But you can then like mess around with things to change the colors and the hues and everything to get it looking quite nice. Now at the end of the day, I actually like my version better than the one that Dali came up with, because I used the concepts and the theories that I was developing over this week to build something on that. So I just think Plasticity is great for concepting. You can do stuff really quickly. So I've been recording now for 29 minutes. You could do something like this much quicker, and especially once you get a flow going. So I'll leave it at that. I'll see you all in the next one. Have a Merry Christmas if you celebrate it. If you don't, have a Happy New Year, and have a Happy New Year anyway. And yep, I'll see you all in the next one. Tschüss!